Amen. So let's just talk just for a few minutes about dedication service, and then we're gonna go ahead and y'all can just go out and the family can go out and celebrate. It'll be good. All right, dedication service. That's something that people don't quite understand what a dedication service is. Let me just tell you something. First, let me tell you what a dedication to this morning's ceremony was not. It was not just a service. And it was not just a ceremony. Although there was it's in the service, there's a ceremony in the service, and we had candles and candy and a Bible and flowers. All that was part of a ceremony, but dedicating our children to the Lord is not a ceremony. Amen? It's something a lot more serious. So what is it? First, it's a promise. We're promising God, hey, you give me a child, and so I'm going to give that child back to you. And as I give that child back to you, that makes our relationship between me and God more powerful. It makes my relationship with my child more powerful. And it makes the promise of my child more powerful now because I'm realizing he just lent him to me and I'm giving him back to God. So it's a very powerful thing. So it is not a ceremony, but it's a commitment. Now how many here every day like to think that you commit your life to Christ? I give God me every day. God, here I am. You got me. You said you wanted me. I don't know why, but here I am. Amen. So remember, it's a daily commitment. There's some examples in the Bible. I just come with some examples. First, Hannah. Hannah was a barren woman, and she kept praying for God to hear her. And God gave her Samuel. Samuel means name of God, but it also means God's name is El, but it also means God has heard. And so God heard her prayers and gave her a son. So she talks to Eli the priest and she says, for this child I prayed, the Lord hath given my petition which I asked of him. Therefore also I have lent him to the Lord. As long as he liveth shall he be lent to the Lord. I almost put lent up there today. Mom and Daddy lent me to God today. Amen. I lent my boys. I gave my boys. I gave Bethany. I gave them all to God. Amen. I give me to God every day. Joseph and Mary with the infant child Jesus. 8 days after he was born, they were in the temple, and they were dedicating him to the Lord. It is a very, very powerful, positive action when we dedicate our children to the Lord. But what we're going to talk about today is Abraham. Abraham is probably the most powerful example of baby dedication I've ever seen because, number one, that was a big baby. Isaac was more or less 17 years old, so Isaac was a big boy. Okay, so this means that not only was God dedicating, or was Abraham dedicating him to God, but also Isaac, who had enough strength to take down a 100-year-old man, didn't, but was submissive to the Father's will. Wow, that's some powerful stuff there. Very powerful stuff. So now, let's look at that for just a minute. All right, here it goes. Abraham, when he dedicated Isaac, he totally, irrevocably gave Isaac back to God. He totally, irrevocably gave Isaac back to God because in verse 2 it says, God told him, said, take your son, your only son, the one whom you love, and sacrifice him. You see, Isaac had been a miracle baby. Now, he's been a miracle baby. Sarah was 90 and Abraham was 100. Just think about it. How would you like it if your 90-year-old mama come home and said, girl, you're going to be a sister? Can you imagine? 90 years old, he's 100. And after she goes through all this trouble to get him, then God says, okay, I gave him to you. Now guess what? I want him back. I want him back. You see, that's what was happening. I played a little what-if game. You ever play what-if? Let's play a what-if game here. Ready? What if Abraham had refused to give Isaac back to God? What if Abraham said, no, God, you just went through all this stuff to get this boy. Now you're going to all this stuff for me to get this boy. And I'm having to take my other boy and run him off in the desert. All this stuff to Ishmael. All this stuff's going on. And now with all this, now you're asking me to sacrifice what you gave me. My promise, you asked me to give your promise that you gave me back to you. Some of y'all here need to hear that today. Because you say the promise is driving you crazy. Give it back to God and watch what will happen. Amen. It might not be your kid. It can be something else. But give it back to God and watch what happens. What if he had said no? He would have forfeited all of God's promises. He would have forfeited God's plans for Isaac. Isaac would have lived and died in obscurity. You would never have heard about Isaac. But what if, and he did, he obeyed and gave Isaac back to God. Watch this. He received the fullness of God's plan and promise, became a very powerful man, became the forefather of God's own son. Isaac's life is still having an impact on the world today. Wow. Because he gave his son back, God used him to bring forth us. Wow. We talk about Father Abraham. How many sons? Many sons has Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so are you. Let's just praise the Lord. Right hand, left. Yeah. You can also say Father Isaac had many sons. Many sons had Father Isaac. Wow. If it weren't for Isaac, we would be singing about Father Abraham. Amen? So here's a few lessons. It's got to do a baby dedication. Like I said, I'm not going to keep you long today. Isaac actually represents... Go ahead and fly off. There you go. Isaac actually represents Abraham's hopes, his dreams, his future, his promise from God. That's why, people say it's hard to lose a child than for a child to lose a parent. You know why it's so hard to lose a child? Because when you lose that child, you lose your hopes, your dreams, your future. When you lose a spouse, you think about, all my hope, my future hope is gone because that spouse is gone. But especially when a child goes ahead of a parent. So again, Isaac represents Abraham's hopes, dreams, future, and his promise from God. So when we dedicate our children to God, we don't just dedicate our children, we're dedicating our family, and we're dedicating ourselves. I took it very seriously that day I stood up in the congregation and dedicated DC. I had just started serving God. I wasn't even sure what I was doing. But I knew what I was doing was very serious. And I took it very serious. And I had no idea that years down the road, I was going to be dedicating more and more and more children. I would be even dedicating my own grandchildren. Wow. So watch this. Here we go. This is what blows me away. And here's where a lot of us are at today. So please watch this and listen carefully. Because it's not only with baby dedication, it's with life in general. Watch this. God knew that Abraham was a man of faith. And because he was a man of faith, he was a man of action. And because he was a man of action, he would put that action into plans. And so he knew that Abraham, he could trust him because he had faith. He would move on his faith. And he wouldn't just do a haphazard job. He would move with a plan. God wants all of us the same way. Faith, action, and plan. But God knew that something stronger was going to come behind this. And so now, God knows that Abraham didn't know that God was about to test him. And here's how God was going to test him. He was going to test his plans by putting his faith in an action he wasn't expecting. Wait a minute. God, you want me to sacrifice my son on an altar to you after all this trouble to get this son that you promised unto me? You said he was mine. We have him, and now there's this big old problem going on. I have to kill him. Some of y'all in here today, your plans are being threatened. You've already got your plans set up. Your plans are being threatened. And you're trying to live by faith, but the actions are trying to make you live the other way. I'm here to tell you something. Just remember this. God has a plan. The Bible says in Genesis 22:5, Abraham said to his young men, abide here with the ass, and I lad go yonder and worship, and will come again to you. When he was going up the mountain to sacrifice his son, he said, we're going to go up to worship. And he says, my son's coming back with me. He knew before he ever was going to drive that dagger in his son's heart that God was going to take care of it. Hebrews 17:19 says, by faith, Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac, and he had received the promises, offered up as his only begotten son, of whom it was said that Isaac shall be the seed called, accounting that God will be able to raise him up even from the dead, from whence also he received it from a figure. Meaning, he knew even if he had to kill him, God would raise him up. Some of y'all in here right now, if you could understand, you're sitting here thinking, my dream's dying in front of me, and you don't understand. God's able to raise it up. Give the dream to him, and watch God raise that dream back up. So here we go. I'm getting close to the end. There's 4 elements. 4 elements of giving your child back to God. Number 1, Giving your child back to God is giving your child to God is a confirmation of your love for God. Isaac was Abraham's most prized possession, but he didn't allow that to take the place of God. And this is what exactly Abraham proved by his willingness to offer Isaac. Let me just tell you a little something. I'm going to do a little family counseling. In the early years, back in the early 1900s, and coming up, the family life was marriage-centered. And you saw fewer divorces, and you saw fewer problems because it was marriage-centered. And as time came by, and as the United States of America, and as the world began to prosper, and all this stuff began to get put into action, the family slowly, the house slowly moved from marriage-centered to children-centered. And when it became children-centered, now instead of what can we do to keep our family together and keep them in God, it's what can we do now to keep the children active and moving and moving and moving and moving. What has happened is we've slowly moved from a marriage-centered family to a child-centered family. And when you have a child-centered family, the marriage goes haywire. Just thought I'd throw it in there for just that's a freebie you got today. Just take it with you and keep it with you. All right.